Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to Bassman's Corner. Today, as promised, I'm going to be building a pond filter. I'm actually replacing one that's already been in place for about 6 years, I think it is. This is my pond, and you can see since spring came here, the water's starting to get a little bit green. What we're going to be working on today is a couple things. I have a filter, that's the blue barrel, and then I've got a little bit of plumbing apparatus here. That's the bypass slash valve system that I've set up for this. What you see in the little green house is a UV filter. We won't be working on that today, but my barrel got a little bit of a split in it, so we're going to build a new one. I'm going to show you how. Kind of walk you around what I've got here. This is seems to be the best way to keep this thing sealed up without having a bunch of leaks around this lip. So I took I think that's a 3/16 inch piece of plexiglass, stuck a seal on it, and drilled some holes. I think my little split is back here somewhere. Inside you can see the lava rock. Got 2-inch bulkhead fittings in there and out the back, and then that goes through the UV filter, and then out of the UV filter back into the bottom of that. Anyway, so join me as we build this guy. All right, so I think most of you will not be trying to retrofit an old lid that has 13 bolt holes in it. You'll probably want to figure out 12 is what I'm thinking. Kind of equally spaced, and we need to mark this lip here, not the top. For me though, I'm going to have to use my lid as the template because I have 13 screws. I don't remember what my methodology was when I was initially setting them up. The other thing I need to make sure of is how I want the inlets and outlets in relation to the handles. Also, there's some raised arrows on the outside of the barrel here that we'll want to avoid when we put our bulkheads in. So probably right around this area, you're going to want to orient the handles how you want them. It all depends on what your setup is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hole on the front and a hole on the back. And again, you will probably, unless you're running a UV light or some other secondary filter, will probably be putting both holes on the same side of the barrel. So I'm just going to roughly mark a line on the front and the back. So that's on the front, right there. So really what I'm doing is dividing the barrel in half, getting it right down the center on this guy here, on that line. And again, you know, it doesn't need to be perfect. As close as good enough for me. They're just hoses. Hopefully it's going to be hidden in your backyard or your front yard or your farm or wherever it is. So now that I have a mark roughly where I want that to go, see, I had to avoid those raised arrows that are there. Going to be putting the bulkhead about here. Now, in order to get them to fit well, you've got a round surface and you've got a flat bulkhead. The bulkheads come with a nice little seal, nice little washer, which you'll want to leave on the outside. Big nut goes on the inside. Put it through, drill a hole, put it through the hole, tighten it all up, squeezes flush. But because of the curvature of the barrel, I am going to add some heat. So where that bulkhead's going to go, I'm just going to heat this up, soften it up, and let it get flat. So this will take a little while. Just want to gradually add heat to this. If you add it too quickly or in a localized area, you'll create a sag in one spot, which you don't want to do. If you don't have a heat gun, a hair dryer is probably not going to do the job for you. You're probably going to want to maybe use a torch. Heat up a piece of metal, lay it on there. The torch may do it, but you could create a little bit of a fire hazard. So I'm most likely going to be fast forwarding to the end of this when it's nice and flat. All right, so what I did, I took the bulkhead, once that got soft, and I just made a little divot there with the bulkhead. You can see what I've got going on there. So now I know that edge is going to be flat. So when I put that in, this rubber seal is going to seal nicely against that edge. So now I can't touch it until it's cooled off. Another item that I have on my barrel, which you may or may not want to do, is add a drain. I have a big ugly drain on mine, which I'll show you later, but I'm gonna install that guy on the front, and I'm gonna heat this one up. Basically do the same thing. So check back with me in a few minutes. Okay, so just about got it. Just putting some light pressure on this while it cools off. It's important not to push it down too far. You don't want to make it dented in the other way. So once it'll stay in the shape that you want it. All right, nice. So now I have this nice flat shape there. So for me, one more on the back. This is probably all you would need to do, unless you're running, like I said, a third filtration system. So the barrel I ordered online from, I think it was John Bon. It's Jon-Bon. It's a mixing barrel normally used for self-leveling concrete. So you'll fill that up with self-leveling. You can mix it, put the lid on it, seals it up. But I've seen them also used for dry goods storage, food storage. But this one, I think it cost me about, man, that's still warm. I think it was $53, $58. I'll put a link to it down in the description. In fact, I'll put the links to the websites where I got all this stuff, so you can order if you need. So anyway, I'm gonna let this cool down a little bit more. I'm gonna flip it around, do the back one, and then I'll check back with you guys. All right. So now that these have cooled off, and the heat gun's cooled off, which, by the way, important thing to do. Always cool down your heat gun before shutting it off. Don't just turn it off hot. It's not only a safety issue, but it's also to protect the longevity of the heating elements in your gun. All right, so next step is make a hole, big old hole. This is actually, I do see it. This is a 3 1/4 inch hole saw, and it fits just under the size of my bulkhead. So it should work great. I'm gonna make sure I center this in the flat spot. Be kind of sad to go through all the trouble making that spot flat and then missing with the hole. So let's do this. Beautiful. holes are made. Looks good. Bulkhead fits nice. Next part is going to be a little bit tricky. This is where we'll actually have to drill holes in this lip for the 2.5-inch screws to go through. And what you're going to have to do differently than what I'm going to do is you're probably going to have to make 12 total marks. So you'll, or even 16. So you may do 2 marks here, cut that in half, just pie slice it, 2 marks there, cut those in half, cut those in half, and those will be your reference points. For me, I have to use the lid I already have. So I made some marks on the top of the lid here to indicate where the front of the barrel is. That was before I cut horribly that corner off. But because all of my screws aren't exactly uniform, they wouldn't line up if I did that or that. So for me, I am going to get this guy centered where it needs to be, and I'm actually going to make marks down through the existing holes. That way I can make sure that I get my screws all in the right spot. So check back with me here in just a minute. There we go. All right, much better. Just gonna make a little mark here so I can see it a little easier. Find it next time. All right, well, I'm gonna get my drill bit set up, get 2 of the screws, which by the way are, I think I mentioned, they're size 832 by 2.5 inches long, stainless steel. Make sure you use stainless steel. Otherwise you'll be doing this over and over again, or you'll never be able to get the lid off, because I can guarantee it's going to rust in place. So let me get that together and we'll start that process. All right, so here's what you're going to need. 11/64 drill bit to make this hole here, which should be just big enough for an 832 2.5-inch screw. I got these at Home Depot. They're relatively cheap, but they didn't have enough, so I'm gonna have to recycle some off of the old barrel. Not super happy about it, but we'll do that anyway. 832 nuts. These will be used to hold the screw in place. So once we push that through, we'll put a nut down on it. That's what these are for. And then you'll have just the screws sticking out. I don't have them here. I have a little bag on my bench, but some number 8 stainless steel washers to put down on your lid. And these are 832 wing nuts. Again, all this is Home Depot stuff. There's 25 here. This little box I think it was $8, $7. I don't remember exactly. Oh, actually, they were $3.21, looks like. So way cheap. Anyway, all right, so I'm gonna get started on this. Again, I'm gonna do these 2. I'm gonna put the lid on. I'm gonna make the rest of my marks. Take the lid off. I'll drill the rest of the holes. So let's drill some holes. All right, 2 holes drilled. Already got 1 nut in there. I was walking you through the whole process when I realized that the battery was dead. So got 1 nut in there, inserting the second nut, or the second screw, and cinch that guy down with this nut. And I'll tighten it up, but that is what you're looking for. Do the same with this guy here. Now I drilled this hole a little bit of an angle, which is making it a little difficult to get this nut on. But we will manage. So I'll get my wrench, my screwdriver, get these tightened up so that they're real snug. This will be their permanent location when I'm done. Then I'll slip the lid back down on here and I'll make the rest of my holes. And I won't bore you with all those details, but that should take me about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll get going again. All right. All right. Well, so that was fun. So it wouldn't officially be a project unless you had to return to Home Depot at least once. Final project probably 4 times, but the screws on my old barrel are the wrong size. They're 1032. So, and instead of mixing and matching the sizes, which could make it a pain in the butt putting the wing nuts on later, especially as often as we change the filter out, I will pick those up later. So I left them out here. I think I have 5 screws that I'm short. I've left them out in the front here just to give myself a little bit of easier access to these bulkheads. I'm gonna see if I can get a view inside of there for you guys while I attempt to tighten these things up, because they can be quite a pain. I have some really large channel locks that I use. Grab these other bulkheads here, but big channel locks. Hoping that I can get this guy to tighten up. Without spinning the whole thing. There we go. Oh, nice. That's good. All right. Let's get this one in. That's how you do that. Okay, looks like everything is nice and sealed. No gaps. It's the rubber washer. Doesn't have any problem sealing up against that barrel. When you put those in, you want to make sure you wipe them down too. Make sure there isn't a bunch of cuttings and filings from your hole. And that is pretty much it. Short of finishing up the lid, let's talk about this. So short of finishing up the lid and putting some kind of a screen in the bottom of the barrel where the lava rock goes. So you want something in there to keep the lava rock from flowing back out through the hose. I've used a couple of things. Stainless steel expanded metal. I have in the current barrel, I have kind of a decorative, what is it, like a furnace vent type meshy kind of material. I just cut a little piece of that, kind of wrap it over the inside of the bulkhead to keep the lava rocks from flowing through there. And that's it. Fill it about halfway with the lava rock. Put your finest buffing pad kind of filter in the bottom, then the medium, then the coarse in that order. So it'll be white in first, red in second, black in last. And you're filtering. All right, progress has been made. I've got all the screws installed around the seam. Got them bolted down with the little nuts. I've got these that I've got to take out of my old barrel. I've got one out. It was quite a fight. I've got one here on the front. That ugly mess that I got to get off of there. See that ugly mess down there? That's going to be fun. And we'll get them screwed in. I won't make you suffer through all that. It's probably going to be a dirty, messy job with a lot of swearing, maybe some work on the vise, clamping stuff while I unbolt stuff, unscrew those big pipes. They've been in there. They don't like to come out. So I'll make you suffer through it. We'll cut back to the scene when that's all installed. All right, well, that was fun. But I got it. It's ready to go, with the exception of a couple things. Putting the screen, this is the screen that's going to keep the lava rock from just flowing out of the bottom. This is from the old one. I'm going to reuse that. No reason not to. But I made it from this stuff. This is kind of a decorative screen mesh, maybe radiator type screen stuff, available at Home Depot, Lowe's, your local home store. Anyway, I'm going to put it in. I'm going to go kind of rinse off the lava rock that I poured out of the old barrel, put some in it, get it out to the pond. It's kind of raining right now, so I've been avoiding it, but let's get this thing going and put this project to bed. All right. Two of these, by the way. You gotta have one over each of the outlets. Perfect. So the purpose of the lava rock is to add surface area for bacteria to grow and keep things nice and healthy in the pond. About half full. I'll show you where it's at. All right, about half full, and that's it. I'm going to put my filters in, take it over to where it lives in the back of the pond, hopefully not get too rained on, give it a rinse off, put the lid on it, and turn the water on. All right, lid looks good. I'm going to get my filters. Got 3 flavors here. We got an extra one. All right. So I've got a coarse and a medium and a fine. And the way these are going to go in is the fine on the bottom. I'm thinking being that top layers are going to catch most of the big stuff, snail shells and leaves and flowers. And these fit in here pretty well. Then the medium, and then the coarse. So take a look in there. That's how they fit in there. Very good. So the lid is a little bit finicky. Now when I made this lid, I made a mark on it so that I would know where the front was, because these screws aren't in a symmetrical pattern. They're just kind of whatever I had done. So carefully set this down, lining these screws up in the holes one by one, and voila. And then I've got some stainless steel washers to go on these. I always like to put a washer down. It helps in tightening the screws so that you're not rubbing right against the lid surface. These are stainless steel. 3. All right. Nice new wing nuts. And when I'm tightening these up, I don't cinch any one side down. I kind of work my way around the lid. You'll see why here in a minute, but let's get them on there without losing them. All right. Now, just like to work my way around here, around the circle. Hopefully we're getting a good seal. I may have to replace this weather stripping, but it looks like it's doing the job. It's cheap stuff. I just don't think I have any. I'm gonna go hook my hoses up to it. I'll give you a quick look at what that looks like, what kind of fittings I'm using to connect the hoses. And that's it. There's your filter. Heavy, heavy, heavy. There you go. Saved you something. Okay. Now, with any luck, I'll be able to get these hoses back on. They're looking short, kind of. Guess we'll figure it out. Out of shape. This barrel's heavy, so let's get it lined up with this one. So these fittings just have an O-ring in them that pushes up against the nipple and makes the seal. So I'm going to start this one first because it's going to be the hardest one, I think. Lovely. And they don't have to be super, super tight because that O-ring does push up against the nipple. I'm just going to put a little, maybe a quarter turn more on it. Probably good. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So I'm going to need to make a longer hose to go here. I think because I used the plastic nipple here, the barrel is closer this way than it used to be. So I'm going to make that, but that's pretty much it. You can kind of see how this works. The valves in this position are off. This is also in that position, preventing water from going through. So it's in bypass mode, this being open, and all the water from my pump and then to my waterfall runs through here. This is the gauge I'm going to be replacing too, which I'll have to fly out of there. But it's seen some sun, and I got a new one that's a lot nicer. It's mineral filled, should be able to withstand the elements out here a lot better. This is drilled and tapped right into this. This is actually a 2-inch thread with a nipple, the hose nipple, but you can see that's not very useful anymore. So I'll get the new one ready. I'll have to cut and make a new hose for that. That's a job in itself because the hose is very stiff and it's really hard to get on these barb fittings. I usually use my heat gun, heat them up, and then kind of get them pliable and then make them. So I'll get that measured. And make it a little bit easier on myself here. Cut this. Stinky. All right, I'll take this back to the bench, make a new one. That's significantly longer. Of course, I'll measure it before I cut a new piece, but then I'll have to burn that guy off of there as well. And then we'll be rocking and rolling. So stick around. All right. So, excuse the workbench mess. I know it's terrible. It's been all winter. The projects haven't totally stopped, but the warmth and the time to clean up after them kind of has. Unfortunately, I'm just kind of lazy that way. I was hoping to get things a little bit more straight before I started making videos because of the embarrassment, but the pond project kind of came up and I didn't really have much choice. So what I'm doing, oh boy, not a lot of room there. Anyway, what I'm doing, just cutting the hose, and then I'm gonna heat it up with my heat gun, slip this guy in one end, have to heat the other end up out at the pond because I didn't really want to take that other barbed fitting out. It's screwed into plastic and it just sometimes it's a one-time deal. All right, and now another piece to clutter my workbench. All right, so what I'm gonna do, get this guy warmed up. And believe me, this makes it so much easier to do, but you do have to be careful because this stuff does heat up mighty quick. All right, low heat, and I'm just gonna slowly heat that inside up. I'm actually gonna put a little bit of lubricant on this guy as well. Pretty rusty, corroded. Probably rushing it a little bit, but it's almost dinner time, and man's gotta have his dinner. So does the rest of my family. I'm just waiting for my wife to come out here and ask what we're doing for dinner, and hopefully I'll be at least close. All right, let's see what this does. Lovely. And that's that. So that's going to be the easy one because I can't really do that when I get out to the pond doing the other one. Get my worm clamp slid over the hose, take the heat gun out, heat it up, slip it on, and that'll be it. It'll be done. All right. Heat. So if you start to smell it, you've probably gone too far with the heat. At least if it smells smoky. I want to make sure I get it hot enough to do this in one try. I want it to go all the way on the first time, because once it cools down, it isn't going to move. In fact, I wonder if I shouldn't have brought my hammer with me, my mallet. All right, I think I'm gonna do it. I think this is it. Oh, yes. Perfect. Perfect. It's probably even a little bit too warm. So I'll get this clamp on it now while it's still pliable. Lovely. All right. Let's see if my measurements were worth the damn. All right, well, it looks like I'm ready to go. I'm gonna close my drain. I put the drain plug back in my UV light and see if I can open this guy up without breaking it. Here it comes. Oh no, big hole. Well, that's disappointing. I've already got a big leak on the front. And the back. So it looks like I'm gonna have to revisit all this. Damn it. All right, well, to another day. All right, guys. Well, as you know, when I put the barrel together, the whole thing was leaking. At least two of the bottom bulkheads were leaking. And I attribute that to this. This is the thin rubber O-ring washer that comes with the bulkheads, and it's kind of stiff. Well, I actually attribute it to two things. This and the fact that I couldn't really get this very tight inside the barrel because it was really difficult to get the channel locks that I was using onto this hex nut. So what I did to remedy it, two things. I purchased some of this sheet, which is 1/8 of an inch thick. It's neoprene rubber. It's nice and pliable. And as you can see, I've cut out some new O-rings or washers to go on there. They fit over this bulkhead nice and tight. And the second thing I did to remedy it, when this nut goes on inside the barrel, since I'm having a hard time getting something on there to tighten it down really hard, I actually purchased this giant socket. This is normally a socket that's used for bearing nuts on vehicles. It's 3.5 inches, fits over this guy. A little bit of play, but there's no chance of stripping this thing. It's got a 1/2 inch drive, and so once I'm in the barrel, I'll actually be able to crank that thing down nice and tight. So the two things I'm going to do, I'm going to go dig the barrel out from the connections that I've made. I'm going to pour out the lava rock, which, you know, is what it is, I guess. Take these default rubber washers and replace them with these neoprene washers, which are probably 30% thicker and definitely at least twice as spongy. So they should cover the holes that I drilled for those bulkheads to go through and make it a nice seal. So that's what I'm going to do now, and with any luck I'll be able to fire that guy back up today. So stick around and see how things go. gosh, this thing is heavy. All right, guys. So I have taken all the bulkheads out of this and had to purchase another tool. So here's all the parts. Here's the big socket that I bought. This is an extra bulkhead, but I was test fitting the new seal with. Got the inlet. Already taken the seal off of that. This is the outlet. Take the small seal off of it. The nuts. And these are the new thicker seals that I've made. 3 of them. So this is neoprene rubber. I picked it up from Grainger Supply in Salt Lake City. I'll include a link to the part in the description. It comes in a 12 by 12 inch sheet. It's 1/8 of an inch thick, and it should work just great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one on the inlet here. And the other thing I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to is the centering over that hole. So the holes are a little big for the thread. You can see they kind of plays around in there. So I'm gonna get this guy set on here. I did make the middle holes a little bit small, but it should be fine. But I can see where it's centered from the inside. So I'm gonna be looking at the inside. I'm gonna get this nut started on here. Get it close, then I'm gonna finalize the centering of this thing. And then I'm gonna tighten it with that big old socket. Hopefully this will alleviate my leak problems. I think it will. I don't really, honestly, I don't see how it couldn't. So I can actually get it way more hand tight now that I have this socket, but I don't have a 3/4 inch ratchet to drive it. So I'm gonna grab it with my pliers, my channel locks, and I'm gonna cinch this sucker down, and it will be tight. Let's see what I can do here. It's a little fiddly trying to get a hold of everything in here. All right, well, I guess we'll see. I really don't want to do this again. I'd like to turn that water on and get my filter going. It's been another week now. It's been a little rainy, so it hasn't been a big deal for algae growth, but it's coming. So I got to get this done. So this is for me, the outlet. For you, probably not necessary unless you're running that second filtration system. So I'm going to get it started. And then just like the other one, I'm going to make sure I get it centered properly. All right, well, that's about as tight as I'm going to get it. I think we've made improvements with the new gaskets. I'm gonna take it out and before I put all the lava rock in it, and I'm just gonna give it a pressure test to kind of make sure that it's working before I go through all the trouble of putting the lava in it and the filters and everything else. So let's go give it a pressure test. All right, well, I'm back. We're gonna be screwing this thing together. Hopefully the last time. I guess we'll see. All right, let's get the lid on this thing and let's see what happens. I'm not 100% convinced that it's not going to leak around the seal, because I think this seal needs to be replaced and moved a little bit, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Okay, good. So I'm going to turn the valves on. I'm going to cross my fingers. I'm pretty sure this is going to leak on the top, but if I can get some pressure in it, we're going to test these fittings here. I'm going to tighten these up just a little bit. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, well, this valve is, or this nut is leaking a little bit, but I can certainly tighten it up. Stop that. There we go. So the pressure is at 2 and a little bit pounds. I've got to open the valve that sends it back. Without breaking it. There we go. All right, looking good. I'm gonna increase the pressure now. Yes. Very good. I'm going to give you a view here. You can see that water going in there. It's pumping through nicely. No leaks out here. No leaks on the top. Pressure-wise, we're about, well, let's give you a look here. Pressure's at just about 4 pounds, which is great. All right, success, finally. All right, guys, well, that's gonna wrap it up for today. Got the lava rocks in, got the filters going. It's happy. I turned on my UV light You can see it back there. Nice and happy. Pond is nice and happy. It's a little bit green, so all of that stuff that's floating around in there is going to get pulled out by the floor buffing pads. We still have some spring cleanup to do. There's a lot of moss and crud that's grown up over the winter time, but a little bit of moss is a good thing because it does create some oxygen. Fish are all happy, and I come out here in about 2 hours and this water is going to be crystal clear, I'm sure. But so that was the project. Thanks for joining me. Wish it could have gone a little bit smoother, but you know what? I got to show you the good with the bad, the mistakes with the fixes, and I think overall we are in business. This thing should last me at least another, hopefully 10 years, because I didn't put the bulkheads right on the seam like I did last time. So I think this filter setup is going to last me a good long time. Anyway, thanks again for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.